No problem.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Balboa Park Committee meeting of March 3rd, 2022. I'm going to ask Johnny to start the governor's executive order explaining our virtual meeting this evening.
All right. Welcome, Balboa Park Committee members of the public, and city staff to the Balboa Park Committee meeting. I am Balboa Park District Manager Johnny Cho, and I would like to share meeting procedures with you before we begin the meeting. Until further notice, meetings of the Balboa Park Committee will be conducted pursuant to provisions of California Executive Order 2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. In the interest of public health and safety, board members will participate in meetings by Zoom webinar. As such, and in accordance with the executive order, no members of the public will attend the meetings, but instead view and join the meeting proceedings via the link listed on the agenda and website. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public may submit their comments via a public comment web form or join the live meeting webinar. The instructions for joining the meeting were provided in advance on the website and the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the board in writing must submit a web form prior to the meeting. For those wishing to speak during the live meeting webinar, when the item on which you wish to speak is called, press *9 on your phone keypad or press raise hand icon on your computer. When prompted, please state your name for the record and provide your public comment. You will have time allotted by the chair to provide your comment. Once your time has ended, your microphone will be muted. Pursuant to open meeting laws, no discussions or actions other than a referral shall be taken by the board on anything brought forth under non-agenda public comment. Now I'll turn the meeting over to Balboa Park Committee Chair Molly Chase.
Thank you, Johnny. We're going to take a quick roll call to confirm attendance. When I call your name, please unmute yourself and say present. Howard Blackson.
Present.
Dang Nguyen.
Present.
Molly Chase, present. Allison Soares.
Present.
Briar Marsh.
Present.
Just in the nick of time. Hi, Briar. Victoria Cran. William Aaron. Raised hand looks like a present. Micah Parson.
Present.
Kata Cheatham. Sarah Daw. Catherine Johnston. And Chris Eddy.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. Your attendance has been noted. And then again, just as a reminder, even though we only have an info and a workshop item tonight, to comply with the Brown Act, all motions and second motions must be verbalized by the committee member. We'll start with an approval of minutes from the last meeting, February 3rd, 2022. Is there a motion?
I will motion to approve.
I second motion.
Motion by Will, second by Chris. Someone. Johnny, can we do a raise of, are we allowed to do a raise of hands for simple motions, or you want us to verbalize all of those as well?
I'll just read it. Victor,
Okay.
Is that okay? I'll just go down the line. Molly Chase,
Abstain.
Catherine Johnston, Howard Blackson,
Abstain.
Dang Nguyen,
Yes.
Allison Soares,
Yes.
Briar Marsh,
Yes.
Victoria Kieran, William Aaron Jr.,
Yes.
Micah Parson,
Yes.
Makeda Cheatham, Sarah Daw, Chris Eddy.
Yes.
That motion passes. Do we have any non-agenda public comment?
I see a couple of hand raised. I did not get a web form, so the first person will be Cody Vieira.
And I do see we have Allison Soares would like to make a member comment. Oh, okay. Cody, are you here for non-agenda public comment?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say for when give my update, I'll need to be a panelist.
Looks
Oh,
like you've got moved over. Oh,
Okay.
any,
And Danielle Lehman, is the next person with the hand up.
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. We had a Balboa Park Safety and Security meeting today, and we are very happy to find out that Mike Ruiz has been hired as our new Chief Ranger for our citywide ranger program. He is a former Balboa Park Ranger, so he will jump right in working with Araceli Dominguez, our Senior Ranger in Balboa Park. We also have a newly hired ranger for Balboa Park this month, and hopefully a second one will be coming next month to fill all of the vacant slots. Also announced today, there will be an extra all-state security guard who will be patrolling the Palisades area at night. And we were told also that Allstate provides nighttime escorts to parking lots for any Balboa Park employees, which is good news. Continuing some good news from the HPR cottages, I have sent Johnny two attachments with the flyers for lawn programs coming up. This Sunday, House of India will be having a lawn program. Next Sunday after that, on the 13th, House of Ireland. Then later in the month, on the 20th, will be House of Palestine. And the last Sunday of the month will be House of Iran. All of the cottages are back open now. We were closed for a short time during the Omicron wave. And we are hoping that after tomorrow's walkthrough with Park and Rec, the brand new cottages will be open as soon as possible. And lastly, I have a small announcement. House of Ukraine is collecting children's clothes, shoes, and diapers, both tomorrow afternoon and Saturday afternoon until 5 p.m. And if anybody wants to help out in other ways, you can check House of Ukraine's website for other ways you can help. Thank you very much.
thanks, Danielle. Looks like Howard, would you like to make a comment? And then Johnny, if we have anyone else for non-agenda public comment?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
no
want to
one else.
say, Michael Ruiz is a great person to have. I'm really proud that he's there. He helped me when I was at the program manager with the city of San Diego years and years ago. And then he also works in our neighborhood, and I see him often. And I just think he's a great, great person to have on staff. So congratulations to him.
Thanks, Howard.
No one else.
Oh, perfect. So we'll move on to the chair's report. Mine is short and simple, and Danielle actually stole a little bit of it today, but I wanted to thank Catherine, who's not on, for chairing last week's meeting, and Christina and Johnny and Victor for helping out while I had a baby boy who was downstairs, and I really appreciate it and look forward to bringing him to Balboa Park for the first time whenever I leave my house. So but I appreciate it. And I also am very excited about Mike. He actually taught me and gave me tours of Balboa Park when I was a council rep for Todd, working with Steve Hill back in the day, and took me all around the park. So really excited to see that announcement. And I think hopefully today for our workshop item, I will just say, is the beginning of an important discussion about design review, and one that I know members of this committee and members of the public have been working really hard on for quite some time. So I hope that this really starts the conversation that will be a multiple workshop items, info items, and eventually hopefully action items that this committee will see that will have a lasting impact on kind of how we're engaging with the park, and making sure that this committee especially has more input and awareness of what's going on, and partnership with staff to make sure that we all are seeing improvements to the park that we think are of the quality the park should have. Thank you to everyone who's been working on it. Look forward to the conversation. With that, I will turn it over to Christina for the staff update.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. No staff updates tonight. I will turn it over to Johnny and to Vic, although I think that Danielle might have covered some of our most important updates. So I'll turn it over to them, and hopefully they have some additional information to share. Thank you.
I just have one thing to report. San Diego's Civic Dance Collage had a successful 3-day weekend, or 3 weekends in February. They did both the live performance and live stream their performances to allow for everybody to watch their performances. Very successful, and every show went off. So that's all I have.
I have a question. Johnny?
Yeah.
Were you able to get any information on the Park Boulevard Bikeway project?
I can go ahead and take that answer for you. Thank you, Breer, for the question. We are currently, that proposal is in the custody of the Transportation Department. And so as we mentioned last month, they're continuing to contemplate those designs, and when they're ready for public display, then we will present them to this committee. But in the meantime, they are with Transportation.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's really important that we get a chance to see that. So I'll look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
All right, 2 quick updates for me. As Danielle mentioned already, we're all excited for Michael Ruiz to come on board as the new chief park ranger. And then, as she mentioned, that the additional funding was added for that extra security guard for the Central Mesa. So those are just the 2 updates I have at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Johnny and Victor. Cody?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks everyone. Happy March. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Cody Vieira. The staff to Councilmember Stephen Whitburn in District 3. A few things I mentioned last time about the budget priorities our office submitted. So if you haven't had a chance to look at those yet, I will post a link in the chat again. And last month I mentioned we would be having a community conversation tour coming up. We have scheduled several of those out so far. I'm going to put the link where you can sign up. They are virtual right now, and they are broken down by neighborhood, but of course it's virtual and you can attend any of them. We are going to be focusing on Balboa Park and the Bankers Hill area at our last scheduled one right now, which is going to be on Saturday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. So again, I'll put the link to register for that in the chat for anyone that would like to participate. There will be, Q&A. So feel free to ask questions. And then also, I'm going to put the link in to sign up for our District 3 newsletter. We send them out at the end of the month. So I'll put the link for the one that we just sent out at the end of February, if anyone didn't get a chance to read it. And then lastly, I'm not sure how much anyone else is going to cover this tonight or maybe next month, but I'm sure folks are aware that the council recently passed the street vending ordinance. If you haven't had a chance, you can actually watch the recording of that if you would like to. And Councilmember Whitburn released a brief statement, but he just wanted to thank all the folks in District 3 and elsewhere that called in, sent us emails, and communicated with us in the council regarding for regulation of vending within Balboa Park. And I won't read through the whole thing, but it does prohibit sidewalk vending in certain areas of the park, as well as during the summer moratorium. There's going to be an opportunity for an annual review to see if any further additions are needed. So we're looking forward to seeing this come to fruition, and thank you again. And I think that's it from me.
Thanks so much, Cody. And then now we will move on to our nonprofit partner updates. Becky Higgins is here from Forever Balboa Park.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
All right. Good evening, Chair Chase and Balboa Park Committee members. Thank you for your time this evening. Jackie Higgins, Director of Planning, Design and Programs for Forever Balboa Park. We had our big announcement yesterday. Dr. Elizabeth Babcock will be joining us on April 4th as the first president and CEO of Forever Balboa Park. After an inclusive interview process and candidate review, Dr. Babcock was selected and approved by the Board of Trustees. And we're very excited to have her begin her role at the beginning of April of 2022. So Dr. Babcock joins us from the Academy. She is with the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco currently, and where she serves as the Chief Public Engagement Officer and the Roberts Wilson's Dean of Education for more than 10 years. So help us to welcome her when she arrives just a short month from now. Also wanted to give a shout out and congratulate Michael Ruiz for his new position. So excited to continue working with him in his new capacity. So congratulations, Michael. We are moving forward with some bids for the structural restoration and fire suppression system for the historic carousel, which is actually celebrating its 100th anniversary in Balboa Park this year. So excited, and we'll tell you more as we know more about that project. We continue to collaborate with the city and phase 1 and phase 2 of the Botanical Building and Garden projects. As you guys have probably seen walking around the park, their city is making huge progress on phase 1 of the construction. So very excited to see that happening as well. Our volunteers continue to support the city and Parks and Recreation in various ways. You'll note that just this past Monday, we had a huge group of volunteers out on the West Mesa. They planted an additional 10 trees around the Redwood Bridge Club. So we continue to look for opportunities for volunteers to support and expand upon the work that we do here in the park. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks for all the wonderful updates. Really excited for the new leadership and look forward to welcoming her to the park, the Balboa Park Committee. With that, I'll ask Peter Kaminsky from Balboa Park Cultural Partnership.
Good evening, Chair Chase and committee members. 2 items for this evening. The Cultural Partnership's work to develop a community-driven experience plan for the common spaces of the Cultural District is reaching a milestone of selecting a project vendor. After more than a year collaborating with stakeholders and community members, the Balboa Park Cultural District Community Advisory Board and task forces have made a selection and are starting the contracting process. My thanks to the Cultural Partnership's Mike Warburton and the Fleet's Dr. Snyder for their leadership. Second, we're in budget season. I would ask those listening and members of the committee to join in our advocacy efforts around the following topics. Funding for the Commission for Arts and Culture. Each year, we must fight for essential funding for baseline operations for the city's core arts and culture programs, developed and delivered by over 100 non-profit partners, including all of the cultural organizations within the park. We are advocating for the minimum being the reversal of devastating cuts to arts and culture, with the funding returned to pre-pandemic levels of $14.3 million. For safety and security, recent issues in the park, highlighted by the elevated arson activity, show that an additional and meaningful security presence is necessary. We're glad to see the additional security, and we would ask for that to be continued 7 days a week until it's no longer necessary. With the passing of the street vending ordinance, the park will have a disproportionately high education and enforcement requirement. This will fall to park rangers. We will need an increased presence for park rangers with a dedicated function for management for at least the next 12 months. And finally, services for those who are unsheltered. We all seek for an empathetic approach to assisting the unsheltered individuals within the park. The numbers of unsheltered people in the park continue to grow and must be addressed with a dedicated support, such as a homeless outreach team allocated to the Central Mesa. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Peter. Up next, if Ross Porter is here from Committee of 100.
I don't see Ross or Roger.
Perfect. I see Sarah Dodd just joined. Hi, Sarah. And it says Ross has no microphone. There's a chat and okay. Let's move on to Steve Stopper from Save Starlight. We'll see if someone can join from Committee of 100.
I don't see anybody from there either.
Okay. And Ross just put in the chat, he's yielding his time to Stepner. I think we're okay with a committee update for today.
Yielding time to Mike Stepner.
I mean.
Okay. All right.
It just says user in the chat, but he's signing it Ross. So I'm gonna hope that no one is creating fake Zoom accounts for the purpose of the Balboa Park Committee. And if so, we've gotten pretty exciting over here. Okay. Mike, are you here? Do you have a stakeholder
Mike's
update
here,
in
but
addition?
Mike,
Yes,
you want me to speak for you, or are you going to speak for yourself?
whatever you feel, Howard, I yield to you. Now, I'll say, I have no broad remarks for what the committee's doing. I will save my time for when I present the design review proposal a little later in the program.
Okay, well, Mike, stay there because we have no items on the consent agenda. And so the next item up is item 401, the Design Review Exploratory Committee. So if you want to take the presentation, I'm not sure if you're sharing your screen or if Johnny has.
I will share for him.
Perfect.
Thank you, Johnny. And Madam Chair and members of the committee, members of the staff and people in the audience, we want to thank you for the opportunity to present the work of the last year or so of the Balboa Park Design Review Exploratory Committee. And I would like to give you a brief overview of what we're doing. The goal is to come back in April with a workshop and then something in May for the committee's consideration, moving the proposal forward. Could I have the next slide, Johnny, please? Just the purpose of the presentation is to outline our proposal to establish an advisory subcommittee of the Balboa Park Committee to evaluate potential projects at the request of the committee in response to encouragement received from the committee at its April 1st, 2021 meeting. But I want to add that it really began earlier. Can you go back to the previous slide? It began earlier. It began at the August 2019 meeting of the Balboa Park Committee when there was a controversy over the presentation of the West Mesa toilets, the lack of community participation, the lack of design consideration. And that really brought everything to a head about where we should go. And you have received the Voice of San Diego article that was prepared by Howard Blackson, Renee Smith, and myself that really talked about the need for a design review presence in this process in the park, and really a way of talking about these projects early in the process rather than later. Next slide, please. And our committee consisted of people who were members of the Park and Rec staff, Michelle and Christina, people who were members of Committee of 100, Kevin Carpenter, and myself and Renee Smith, and from Forever Balboa Park, Connie Matsui, David Marshall, and Jackie Higgins, and then Bill Lawrence and Jim Kidrick from the Cultural Partnership. We try to have a broad base of people from the organizations as well as staff to really talk through this and really figure out how are we going to go about reestablishing a process. Next slide, please. And the reason it came about is, as I indicated, controversy over projects, the Plaza de Panama, Pan American Revitalization, the West Mesa Comfort Stations. And to support the effort, you have received copies of the resolutions from the Committee of 100 and the Friends of Balboa Park, really asking for a design review process to save time, save money, move projects faster, but at the same time protecting the character and quality of the park experience in Balboa Park. Next slide, please. This is not new. Planning is a continuing process. And the quote is from the Balboa Park Study Committee of 1957, talking about how we protect our resources, how we pass the park on to the next generation, and what our responsibilities are to maintain the quality of the park. It's a continuous process. A little later, in 1969, Lou Scar, a reporter for the San Diego Union, wrote, "San Diego is a city with a park for a heart. Balboa Park is not finished, and neither is the city of San Diego." This is something we will have to revisit and continue to talk about over the years as we go by to try to protect this great resource for the city. Next slide, please. These are our goals. We want to speed up the approval process. We want to identify mechanisms to reduce controversy and polarization. We want to identify the benefits to be gained from projects and how we resolve issues early in the process. We want to make sure that the projects that are proposed in the park visually and physically in the park comply with existing park plans and enhance the park experience. Next, please. We really wanted to learn as much as possible as we could by reviewing what the old processes were, talking to people who were involved in the previous process, both as committee members of the design committee, as people who are project applicants, former staff, current staff. Again, trying to get as much research as we could to really understand why the process worked, why it didn't work, and how we can make something new in our proposal. Next slide, please. We want to provide professional advice to ensure that projects fit visually, increase efficiency, reduce design-related impediments. And we modeled our process after what the Historic Resources Board has. They have a professional board of members like the Balboa Park Committee, but they have a design assistance subcommittee made of people with particular expertise and design background on their committee that serve as a design assistance subcommittee. And we would like to model the Balboa Park process after that. Next slide, please. We are recommending that the Balboa Park Committee, in its role as community planning group number 1, review projects early in the design process after receiving comments from the design review assistance subcommittee. All too often, the Balboa Park Committee and the Park and Rec Board receive projects for their review at the end of the process. The 100% drawings are complete, and there's no real opportunity to insert or make comments that may improve the project or cause other things to be considered. And we want to consider revisions to the Balboa Park Committee bylaws to establish the Design Review Assistance Subcommittee as a standing subcommittee of your committee. You have 12 members. 8 members have assigned responsibilities, either as a member of the Park and Rec Board, representing community groups, representing the cultural institutions, or representing Morley Field. You have 4 members who do not have assigned, they're at-large members. We are proposing that, at least at the beginning, those 4 members, as they are reappointed, have design background, and that they serve as the core with the cultural partnership, the institutional representative as the core of the design committee. We're proposing that the design membership consists of an architect with historic preservation experience, a landscape architect, an arborist, a construction manager, a park planner, a graphic designer, historian, an urban planner and designer. Maybe somebody who encompasses all of that, or maybe some who represent some of those, but we are hoping to bring that design expertise to the membership of the Balboa Park Committee. Next slide, please. We should work with Parks and Recreation staff to schedule a workshop at our next meeting, which I think the chair mentioned earlier. We want to modify the committee's bylaws and other required city policies to institutionalize the subcommittee and the committee's bylaws are out for review right now, and they've been out for review for quite a while now. We want to encourage the future planning group or the committee to identify, to get members from the identified professional communities. We want to, meeting your community representatives may also have design review background or design backgrounds. We want to incorporate design review into the Balboa Park Committee's regular meetings until the subcommittee is established. And once established, schedule subcommittee meetings 3 weeks prior to each regularly scheduled Balboa Park Committee. This was the way the old committee used to work, so that you would have their recommendations in your time and plenty of time for your action. And we want to adopt guidelines defining purpose, scope of work, and ways of work. And all this we will have in a package that will come to you next month. Next, please. And then just some words from George Marston. In building a city, let us remember that the material things which will endure the longest are those that express the spirit of man. In art, in the arts of landscape and architecture, the spirit of a city can be preserved for the ages. George Marston said that at the dedication of the Presidio Museum in 1926. We think it still makes a lot of sense with Balboa Park, and really thinking about what the physical changes do to really enhance the park experience. Next, please. Thank you. And Connie Mitsui and Renee Smith, I believe, are here to answer any questions that you may have. So I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair. It's very quiet.
Thanks so much, Mike, for the presentation. I'll open it up for any comment from the public, and then open up to members of our committee.
I don't have any hand raised in the public.
Okay, Howard?
I would like to make a motion that we accept everything Mike Steppner said. No, we've been working on this for a while, and I really appreciate Mike. Thank you for coming here tonight and presenting everything, and very professional, always wonderful. And you've been such a great mentor to me, and I appreciate what you've given to San Diego, what you've given to the design profession. So if I can support this in any way, yes, I will. Except Briar Marsh is a mid-century modernist kind of guy, and Balboa Park is actually a classical San Diego architectural expression that expresses the best of San Diego. And so I'm curious to hear what Briar says about this, because I love design. It's what I do. I love Balboa Park. I'm so thankful to be here. And I think that design review would have been a really great idea for the Vicky came to us with the Natural History Museum's landscape thing that I thought was left a lot on the table, but we were at the end of the design review part, as Mike said. And if we could have been at the beginning, a lot of us could have really helped out. And I think that this idea is a very good idea right now, because we are trying to raise the bar, raise the level. And I was kidding Briar about your mid-century modern tendencies, because all architecture and better design is good for San Diego. It's good for our citizens. It's good for our visitors. It's good for retaining people. It's good for making people feel connected. It's good for society. It's not an extra additive cost to San Diegans. It's a extra added value that we can do as a volunteer group. So thank you, Mike Steppner, and thank you for putting this on the agenda.
Thanks, Howard. Briar?
Hi, thanks for that, Mike. I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this. And, you know, we always say architecture is a team sport. So having the opportunity to not only participate in the development of projects, but also to, you know, hear the comments of your peers, even when they're classicists, I think makes all projects better. You know, you can walk around the park and you can see many different architectural styles represented. The Temkin Museum to the building that Panama 66 is in, which was designed by Bob Mosier, who started the firm I currently work for, to the Palisades, where you have some unusual streamlined modern architecture. So the park itself is actually quite eclectic, and so I think you'll need more than one perspective to try and make sure the right things get built. That said, there are so many good people in the city that want to participate, that providing a platform for them or a forum, I think can only be for good. And I mean, I'll be there. And, I do have some questions, or I'm curious about how, the public would participate in this. How, or if other members, design professionals would be selected in addition to people from the Balboa Park Committee, and also how that committee might actually function. But I don't know if it's too early to answer those things, Mike, but if you could shed any light on that, that'd be appreciated.
We will have that as part of the discussions for the next month's meeting. We have responses and proposals for all of that, and Christina I saw her raise her hand, may want to add to that. But I want to add, to something to this too. Design is very important. We have just been selected as the World Design Capital for 2024. And that means we've done some things, but we have a way to go to really improve how we engage and how we create spaces that people want to be in. And I think we're looking at this as a pilot project for what the Parks Master Plan calls for, a reestablishment of the citywide parks design process, and really looking at the public realm and how we really design our public spaces. I think this is, the first step in that process. And then we can have Brer and our debate style after that, once we get this in place.
If I may, Chair, speak to that, to those questions, is that an appropriate?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. And first and foremost, I do want to thank Mike Snepter and all of the participants for the working group, for all the work that you've done recently and over the course of the last year to develop this proposal. I know it's important to this community. First and foremost, I do want to make clear for the record that this body here this evening, the Balboa Park Committee, is not technically a community planning group. So to the extent that that's referenced in the slides, that's inaccurate. Any reference to that, if it was considered a community planning group, that there would be other council policies that would apply to the governance of what we're trying to create here tonight. So I just want to make sure that that's clear for the record. As far as Brier's questions specific to how individuals from the community would be recruited or could participate in that, well, we will of course get into more of those specifics in April, and then of course beyond when we bring forward action items in April and or afterward. That being said, the subcommittee would be subject to Brown Act requirements, which would mean that all of the meetings would be publicly available to anybody that wanted to participate or observe discussions that would be brought before the subcommittee. Specific to people participating, actually as members of the committee, it would only be available to those that are sitting on the Balboa Park Committee exclusively, appointed to the committee, that would have a formal participatory role.
That's great. Thanks for filling in on that. And Mike, I hope to see you at the next presentation as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Well,
Micah?
I think you have a question from Jackie.
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. Really appreciated the presentation and all the work that you folks have put into it. I know you had a lot of meetings and a lot of perspectives. We really appreciate bringing in the Jim and Bill from the partnership. And, I think we all agree that design is critically important. And as has already come up, it's also clear that design is subjective in many levels, and would, as you folks move forward, encourage that you do bring on a very diverse set of perspectives, as Brer mentioned, in particular, bringing on younger people who may see sort of the future of the park very differently from those of us who have been here for a long time and are in a different generation. I was wondering, as I understand it, the subcommittee would be advisory to the committee, which is advisory. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Excuse me,
great.
yes.
And I'm wondering if you folks might be open to sort of a beta test period. I know you had suggested change in the bylaws, creating a full-fledged subcommittee, but it may make sense to start as a beta test period and create some sort of ad hoc committee to the extent that's allowed by our existing bylaws, and give it a trial run for a year and see how it goes, see what kind of issues come up. And if it is all going according to plan and accomplishing the objectives that have been laid out, then go for a bylaws overhaul. Is that something you folks would consider?
Renee, here, can I make a comment, please? Mike?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. So we looked at a pilot program, a one-year pilot program, because it was our sort of understanding that that was a good way to go. We've been talking about updating the bylaws for the Balboa Park Committee, I think, since about 2019 time frame. My fear in your suggestion, Micah, is that with bylaws revisions being considered in the near term, if they go forward while this is still in the study during a pilot period, we run the risk of having bylaws approved and then a lack of energy to go back and revise the bylaws in a relatively short period afterward. I do think that you have the option, and I can't speak, of course, for the committee, to create an ad hoc committee to look at projects as they come up, and that may provide some lessons learned here during the near term. But I offer that as a response. And I want to make another comment. It was my distinct pleasure to co-chair with Connie and Mike under Mike's very clear and benign leadership. But I want to make a comment that please don't take it as pandering, folks, but working with city staff was just an absolute delight. And you had a snapshot of that here today with Christina's clear, quick response to this calling out of the CPG issue. Throughout the course of the year, there were times when we needed advice, we needed some counsel, we needed team support, and we got all of that from Christina and Michelle. We could not even remotely be where we are if the city staff had not made a point to send this to the city attorney, had stayed on the city attorney with the myriad tasks that the attorney for the park system had, and received the input that we did. So Christina and company, not pandering, but sincere gratitude for your support.
It was a great partnership between the organizations and the staff to really come up with a proposal that we believe will really enhance the park and will work. So it's just a matter of moving it forward through the process right now.
Howard, or class assist, Blackson?
I do want to say though, and I don't want this to go without being mentioned. This is part of the root of this is from the bathrooms issue, where we're too much money, too much time, and not enough bang for our buck. And we think that this design review process will help us with those types of issues into the future, whatever they are, as we move into the into the next generation of Balboa Park mentor leadership.
Thanks, Howard. Any other committee member comments or questions for Rick and Renee and team?
Thank you for putting this together.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. And I know
you.
we'll be coming back for a workshop, I believe, at the next meeting. I do think out of the comments today, the need, the desire for the design review committee, I think there's a collective understanding of the why. It's the implementation of how, making sure that what we're doing is in line with city processes, policies, procedures for these types of committees. I will just really quickly put my hat on from when I worked in the mayor's office as the appointments person and for boards and commissions, and just make sure as we think about the types of people that we want to see and the roles that we're saying, we want to make sure people have experience filling. We can totally appoint me out of a job, but we want it to be also positions or types of classifications that, to Micah's point, we can get a diverse set of people in those roles. And so I want to make sure we're not going to make it too specific, too prohibitive, too high of a bar. There's lots of people who care about strong design and strong aesthetics and placemaking and love the park that may not have specific titles, engineers, backgrounds, education. So I just want to make sure we're considering that as a part of the conversation as we move forward. And with that, I will open it up one more time if anyone has any other comments or questions, but it looks like, Howard?
Sorry. My hope is that this goes into design review for the rest of the city of San Diego. This is actually a Trojan horse. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We're trying to get into Balboa Park because the city of San Diego is one of the greatest cities in the history of the world. And we are not taking advantage of being outdoors. We are not taking advantage of being of our climate. We are not taking advantage of being so positioned so well in the world as an international city. And so, yeah, let's be great. Let's dare to be great. So thank you very much. And so, yeah, let's start this now because it's going to get better for, my kids and their kids.
If I can just add one thing, I shared an article with some of you, Christine and Howard and Molly, yesterday. Balboa Park has been pointed out as a world-class destination, one of the best parks in the world. And this was an article put out by the Social Life Project, which looks at parks and open space internationally. And it'd be good to share that because it really points out the qualities and why we're the standard and the model for lots of other parks in other parts of the world. And it also points out some of the issues and the challenges that we continue to have and we will always have, but we continue to work on it. It'd be nice if Christina or Johnny could share that with the full committee at some point.
Yeah, Christina or Johnny, can we send it out as part of the minutes or share with the group in an update? We're getting nodding heads. So yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yes.
And with that, Steve Hill wasn't on when Howard said that it's a Trojan horse, so we'll let him learn about that at the next meeting. And I think we will adjourn to the next regularly scheduled meeting, I believe April 7th. And I look forward to seeing you all then.
If I may, just really quickly, just add one final thing that tomorrow is Employee Appreciation Day, not specific to the city of San Diego, but just in general. So I wanted to take an opportunity to thank Vic and Johnny and everybody that helps make these meetings possible and all of our city employees that keep the water going through your pipes and keep your parks clean and keep your trash and your streets paved and all the rest. So thank you very much to all of our city employees and specifically to Johnny and to Vic here on the call tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny and Vic.
And Christina, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.